Welcome back to the show. This is Ancon Media. We are your hosts. My name is Ocean.
I'm Taylor.
And we're guest starring
Russell.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a guest for today's episode. Today is a very special day. We are going to wrap up this year of 2022 by doing a top 10 movies of 2022. This is kind of something that I don't want to say stole, but are kind of biting off of Russell. He does a top 5 movies every year, and we thought it would be a really cool idea to kind of look back on not only movies that we have watched and done episodes on for our channel, but movies that I'm sure there's maybe one or two that are on your list that you watched outside of the channel, and then for you, you probably have some movies that we've never even heard of. So, I'm gonna give Russell or my dad a chance to introduce himself real quick and tell you a little bit about himself before we get into this episode.
I am Ocean's dad. I'm Russell. I'm the executive producer of The Conversation on Hawaii Public Radio, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. And but I'm also I've also got my foot in the entertainment industry here. I've had a few roles on network television. I've done some independent film, and films are just something that I really enjoy. And so every year I always count down my top 5 favorite movies, movies that impacted me and that I really enjoyed. And this is going to be a fun time to talk movies with you guys.
Yeah. When we created this channel and when Taylor and I decided that we wanted to talk about movies, TV shows, and video games, we knew from the very beginning that eventually you were going to be on this show, and eventually you're gonna be able to share an episode with us. And I think this is the perfect opportunity to get you on for your first episode. Yeah. So, thank you for being here. We appreciate you coming in and taking some time on this holiday to do this episode. We're gonna do this in the first 5, so 10 through 6. We're gonna be pretty quick. We're gonna try and get through them quickly, and then we'll kind of dive a little bit deeper into 5 through 1. Okay. And so, before we get into 1 through 10, though, today is the 31st of December, right? So happy New Year's to all of you guys. You guys will be seeing this on the 1st of December, one day later. 1st of January. So we're talking to you from the past. Woo. But because it's the 31st of December, there still is some time for us to sneak in maybe 1 or 2 movies. And we wanted to start off by talking about maybe 1 or 2 movies that could have potentially made it onto our list had we been able to have the time to watch them before we recorded this episode. Because unfortunately, we can't just watch movies all day. Yeah. Otherwise, that would just be the life. But
it'd be great.
It would be great. So Taylor, do you have a movie that you think would have possibly made it on your list before, or if you had been able to watch it before we did this?
Yeah, I think there's a few, but I can only remember 2 off my head. First being the Hulu reboot of Hellraiser.
Oh, right.
And then the second being, which I would say more so, I was really hoping to see it, but it was had literally 1 screening here in Hawaii when it came out in theaters. So I didn't have the time to go watch it, which is Clerks 3.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wish I could have seen that too.
Okay. All right.
I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan.
Yeah, same.
Interesting. All right. What about you, Daddy? You got any movies that you would have liked to watch or maybe planning on watching later tonight before the New Year's over?
There's a couple of movies. I wanted to watch The Fabelmans. I don't know if I'll get to it tonight, but the movie is made by Steven Spielberg, loosely based on his life and him growing up and loving film and wanting to become a filmmaker. And the reason I'm interested in seeing it is because when my mom was a tour driver back in the 80s, Steven Spielberg used to come to Hawaii a lot for vacation and to film here as well. One day, my mom was driving a limo and her passenger was Steven Spielberg. And my mom took a second to tell Steven that she had a son who wanted to write and be in movies. And Spielberg told her, well, tell that boy, tell your son to just keep writing and just keep going. And so that, I feel like if I were to see that film, it would be like where he came from and kind of the source of his advice that day.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to watch this movie called Tar with Kate Blanchett in it. Just a big fan of her work. And I don't know that much about the movie, but I've heard from a couple of people who I value their movie opinions, and they both enjoyed it. And so that might be the movie I end up trying to squeeze in later tonight.
Yeah, I saw that movie, or it popped up every time I would look up like video or movies that we would potentially want to do episodes on and stuff. But I don't really know anything about that movie either. So you have to let us know how that one is. Maybe we might need to watch that. But for me, one of the movies that I really wanted to watch and I just haven't gotten a chance to is Banshees of Inisherin. I've heard really good things from a lot of people. I've heard a few like mixed reviews, but it did really well as far as like critic reviews and stuff go. So I did really want to see it. I know it's on HBO Max, right?
Yeah.
And you watched it, right?
Yeah, I saw
and
it.
you had told me that it's not what I think it's gonna be. So I would have really liked to watch that movie before we started this. But I mean, the other one that I think maybe would have made it on here had I had a chance to watch it was A Man Called Otto. Came out yesterday, and it actually was potentially going to be our Christmas movie for this year, but then like we said in our trailer reaction video, we couldn't figure out the actual couldn't figure out the actual release date on it.
I don't even think they could because they kept changing the date.
Yeah, so now that it's out, I'm sure we'll see it and we can do an episode on it maybe. But yeah, so those are our movies that we potentially could have made it on our list, or maybe not. You never know. But now we'll dive into the actual list. We'll dive into top 10 movies of 2022. I'll start off with my number 10 selection of the 2022 year. And this might be a little bit of a surprise to you guys, but I really enjoyed this movie. It was DC Super League of Pets.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
It was
I've seen it.
It was an
I saw it in
animated.
theaters.
It was an animated show or movie that had
The Rock
and Kevin Hart. And typically Kevin Hart and The Rock's stuff is really funny, but this was really funny. But I think it was actually a really good movie.
Okay.
And it was a cool take on the whole superhero thing. So I enjoyed it. What is your number 10, Taylor?
My number 10, I actually have Thor: Love and Thunder.
Really? Interesting. Yeah, you had told us off camera that was a little disappointing for you. But
Yeah, I was bummed, but
by the
but,
movie.
by the movie, but it wasn't. I didn't think it was a terrible movie, but there's a lot to like about it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we get to see, Chris Hemsworth almost.
Yeah.
I never asked for that.
I did.
All right, Dad, what about you? What's number 10 for you?
For number 10 is The Wind and the Reckoning.
Ooh.
And the movie itself, there's some story problems with it, but the experience itself was really great for me.
Yeah.
And The Wind of the Reckoning is a local movie. It was shot during the pandemic with an all local crew, and then an all local cast, I think, except for maybe 2 actors were not local. But the movie takes place. The movie is set on Kauai, and it details the events of the Ko'olau Rebellion, which was this one man, Ko'olau, who contracted leprosy. And at that time in history, the United States was sending... The United States had just overthrown the queen, Hawaii's queen, and they were sending everyone with leprosy to Molokai. Yeah. But they were not allowing families to go with the people that were infected. So they were basically breaking up families.
Yeah.
And Ko'olau decided that he wasn't going to leave his family. And so he escapes into the mountains of Kauai. And the movie is about how this one general was tapped to take an army to go find him and bring him back. And it was well done in a lot of ways. There was some dialogue that was kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
But the fact that a major motion picture was made out of a local story by a local director with a lot of local hands on it, and I got to go to the opening night.
Right.
I got to meet the actors and take photos with some of the actors. Just the whole event just made an impression on me, and and so that's why that movie makes my top 10.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I think if I ever got to go to an opening screening of a movie, it probably would make a pretty big imprint on me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really cool. I actually haven't seen that movie yet, and I didn't even see that movie. All right, so number 9, I have, which this movie is only on here mostly because it's like outside of my norm of movies, but I have The Black Phone as number 9.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
So I'm not really a scary movie guy, as you guys know, right? But I enjoyed The Black Phone, and out of all of these scary movies, which is like 3 this year, this was the best one for me. So I figured I'd throw it on here and give it some love since I don't typically watch those kinds of movies.
Yeah, that's
What
cool.
do you got at 9?
My number 9 is Elvis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Elvis was one of those movies that I was trying to see if I could fit it in there, but it just didn't make it.
What was it about Elvis that you liked?
I mean,
I thought you were going to ask what the movie was about.
No. I know, and I I've seen several movies about Elvis, and
yeah.
so
Elvis himself, I love his music. I love like everything he's done in his career. Obviously, a huge inspiration to a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's a Lars Berman film, which I love his style.
Yeah, his visuals
So
are-
the music, the visuals for me was just like, it was great.
yeah, all right.
What about you, Dad? What you got at 9?
Number 9, I have Barbarian,
Oh,
and
gosh.
That's interesting.
I wasn't gonna watch this movie. I also am not. Don't like watching a lot of horror and gore. But my other son, your brother, convinced me to watch it, and I watched it with him, and it was a well made movie. It was well crafted suspense film, and what I loved about it was the play on the title. You're not sure exactly what the title means, and probably until toward the middle, maybe even toward the end of the film. And I read that the film started as an exercise in writing a female character that ignored every red flag and just kept moving forward as she ignored red flags. And so it was interesting to watch this main character just make the most terrible decisions that you can make. Yeah. And there were some sort of things that were very different about the film, and so I liked it more than I thought I would.
That's interesting.
It's so funny but maybe it's because you're the opposite end of me. So like, I haven't seen it yet, for the record. I do want to watch it just so I have my opinion on it. But from other people that I know that like we frequently watch horror movies and stuff like that and trailers, it was not good.
Yeah.
And everything you explained is like the opposite. So I'm even more curious to watch this movie.
Well, maybe knowing where the movie originated from, it being a writing exercise, maybe that might change some people's opinions on it.
Yeah, it's definitely not a classic horror movie for sure, but it's very suspenseful.
Interesting. All right, at number 8, this is another probably blindsided one. I actually watched this movie with you recently. I really enjoyed it, and I'm pretty sure we're the only ones that were awake the whole time during it. But at number 8, I have Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
You know what? That would have that was an honorable mention for me. It was good.
I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah,
it was a
good.
good movie.
Yeah.
Like I haven't watched like Puss in Boots 2 or 3 or whatever is in between, but it was a good movie. It had a really good message, and I love Puss in Boots. And then at the end, it also gives a post-credit scene pointing us towards another Shrek. So
I have not seen this movie. I will not see this movie. Now,
I know
this
why.
is the thing, right? Is I've seen like some reviews of it, and it generally did pretty well. On principle of it existing, I do not want to watch it because I don't like when franchises do this or they become franchises. Because I love Shrek, but I don't think it needed spin-offs. But since I have never seen it, I won't like hate on it. Like,
well, there's a difference between spin-offs and spin-offs turning into franchises. So.
Yeah, I don't blame you, but
I even saw the ticket for this when I was like looking through the upcoming shows because we share accounts.
Right.
And I was like, this is what you watched?
Yeah. Yeah, we did. This is our Christmas movie this year, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really fun movie.
That's totally cool.
All right, what you got at 8 today?
My number 8, I know you have not seen this. I'm not sure if you have, but it's Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
Oh, right. I
I
remember.
haven't seen it, but it's something I would like to see. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that movie. I will say that I am just I'm not a huge fan.
No,
of stop
I
motion
don't think that
and-
you would like this at all
and
in
claymation.
multiple ways. But
Yeah.
it's an amazing stop motion movie, and I really love the new like interpretation of the story of Pinocchio.
I can give credit where credit's due. You know, the amount of work and effort it takes to make a movie like that is incredible, and you know, have at it. But just for me, I'm just not a fan of that type
Yeah.
of movie. So
Yeah.
Most people aren't, honestly.
Yeah.
it's definitely a very specialized thing. What do you got at 8, Dad?
I have Bullet Train, and I really enjoyed Bullet Train.
Yeah.
Lot of good action, a lot of nice story twists and turns.
Yep.
A lot of familiar faces doing some different
Love all
things.
of that. There's another
I really enjoyed it, and I don't think there was anything about it that I didn't like. I just had 7 other movies that I
That I
liked
liked
more. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. All right, number 7, ladies and gentlemen. At number 7, I have Hulu original Prey.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the movie. Like I said in our review, 95% of the movie was amazing. I loved the reboot, not a reboot, but just another Predator movie.
Yeah, it's a prequel.
And it was great. I really enjoyed it. It actually really surprised me. I didn't anticipate it being so good, and the Predator in it is just straight
He
up
is badass.
savage.
Yeah.
Dude, he made that movie.
Yeah. Enjoyed that as well.
Yeah. All right, Taylor, number 7.
My number 7 is actually a very recently released film, and that's Violent Night.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did enjoy that movie. I ended up watching. I don't know if I told you.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I did end up watching it with my brother.
Yeah.
That's a movie he convinced me to go watch with him, and I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Yeah.
I still have reservations about that kind of stuff, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah. What are your reservations about those kinds of movies?
I don't particularly care for and it's purely a personal like taste thing. I just don't care for like a bastardization of Christmas type stuff. Now I will admit that the movie was different than I expected it to
Yeah.
be walking into it, but I still just I don't know. I don't care for, like, I want Christmas to be Christmas. Like, Christmas is one of my favorite holidays of the year, and when I watch something Christmassy, I want it to be Christmas. And I thought the level of gore was just a little touch too much for what it was. But I thought, what is his name? What is
David
that?
Harbour. David Harbour.
David Harbour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he did incredible, and I actually did really like the somewhat original take on Santa.
Yeah.
Like, as far as his origin story and whatnot, was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
I enjoyed that part.
yeah, I enjoyed it. I had a fun time watching it, but it doesn't make my top 10, unfortunately. What do you got at number 7, Dad?
I have the Banshees of Inisherin.
Dang it! I knew the movie was going to be good. Frick.
I really liked it. I love Martin McDonagh's
Yes.
films, and I especially like it when Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson are
Yes.
in them as well. There's some things about the film that just didn't hit me the way it probably was meant to. It just didn't hit me that way.
Yeah.
So there's some things about it that kind of took me out of the film. But outside of that, the relationships and the laughs and just watching these island people living their island life, was made for an enjoyable movie.
Makes sense. I figured it probably... Is it on your list?
No, I didn't care for the movie.
You didn't care for it?
No.
Oh,
I didn't think
good.
it was
So
like
now I
it,
can talk about it.
I
can talk
didn't
bad
think it
about
was bad or anything. It's just,
Yeah.
I just thought it was boring.
It's different than his other films. Definitely different than like Seven Psychopaths. I think is good throughout. A lot of his other films are really good. For me, the part where he actually starts clipping off his fingers, I was like, I just don't believe this. And so, but outside of that, I enjoyed the film.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna have to watch it then, so I can know where I fall on the spectrum. Number 6, the last movie that we're gonna kind of try to get through quickly, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into the next ones. Number 6, this is a Netflix movie. It's the only Netflix movie I believe on here, on my list, and it is All Quiet on the Western Front.
Oh yeah.
The movie was incredible, and honestly, like it could have been higher, but like you had said on about Bullet Train, there's just 5 movies that I really liked better. So, yeah, All Quiet on the Western Front. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. It's on Netflix. It's incredible.
Yeah.
What do you got at number 6, Dan?
My number 6 is actually Prey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Yeah, we're right about there on that same.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, really good installment of the Predator franchise. Really, really different. Yeah. Really,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The
Like I
best
said,
thing. Oh, sorry.
I think it's literally the second best thing for the Predator franchise to ever release
Yeah.
compared to the original movie.
I think the best thing about it is the potential it gives the franchise going forward.
Yeah.
That's
right?
that's another thing.
Like
we
it's
talked about
just
that I love.
because it was so successful and they did so well, and you know if whoever's in charge of that can take the equation that they used and plug some other factors into it, I think they could really create a cool series of Predator type movies that are pretty dope.
Some historical
Yeah.
warriors.
Yeah,
like
it's
Predator
kind of,
in Japan,
Yeah,
like in feudal
in
Japan.
feudal Japan,
Right.
that would be
Yeah.
That's exactly I think what most people
I think that's
want
what everyone
after that.
wants.
But it's a cool because for me, like, we don't get a ton of movies that come out, but for like maybe video games and like I don't know, like comic versions of it,
Sure.
it's just the adaptation of it essentially.
Yeah.
Like I've seen samurai predators and stuff and used them in games, and it's so cool that it's great that this movie came out and did well, so that it sets
Hopefully
up
you
the
can see it,
potential
yeah.
for all of that to come out.
Yeah, I am hoping for that. All right, Dad. Number 6.
Number
Yeah.
6 is Decision to Leave. And Decision to
Movie I don't know.
Leave. Yeah, it's a film. It's a Korean film by Park Chan Wook, who is most well known for making Old Boy.
Yeah.
And I don't know
That's
if
a good movie.
you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's had a few other films over the years. This is the most recent film. It's a 2-hour long movie. It's kind of a slow winding burn about a detective investigating what looks like a suicide, but what could be a homicide, and he falls in love with the victim's wife, or the victim's widow. Yeah. And so the movie is kind of just about him investigating and dealing with these, his connection to her, and it was an interesting movie to watch. And the story itself is, I think, a little long for a lot of people, but every shot in that film is really well done, and he does. Wook does some amazing things with some of the cinematography and some of the setups for the flashbacks and stuff. So it was really well done. I really wish it would have cracked my top 5, but there were just 5 other movies I liked better. Yeah.
Where can we find that movie?
So that just got released into theaters here. I know it's playing at Kahala Mall.
I was gonna say, I think I've
Is it
seen
a
Yeah.
consolidated movie?
Yeah, it's a consolidated movie. But I watched it on Apple TV Plus. I think I did like the free movie subscription, the 7-day trial,
Yeah.
and I was able to watch it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, sounds like something I would like.
Yeah, for sure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, those are our top 10 through 6 movies. Not a little bit less discussion about them, but now we're gonna dive into 5 through 1. We're gonna spend a little bit more time on
It's
each
gonna
of
be a
these
little
movies,
spicy.
and I think there might be
Yeah.
and there might be a little bit of a
Might be
of
some
a-
fights going on.
Interesting. But I know what your number 1
Yeah,
is because you had shared with me earlier, and I have a decent idea of what yours is, but you could surprise me. So I'm interested to see where your number 1 is.
Okay.
All right. So I'll start it off again. Number 5, I really enjoyed this movie. I don't really know how like it did as far as critics and stuff go, or like Rotten Tomatoes or anything like that. We watched it together, actually, and it was one of the funniest movies of the year to me. And it's Unbearable Weight of Massive
High
Talent.
five.
Yes. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I thought Nicolas Cage absolutely nailed his performance. I think it's really hard for an actor to play himself. Like, I think actors are so used to portraying somebody else on screen that if you ask them to go up on stage or on screen and just be themselves but be themselves within a story that they are
I was gonna
supposed
say
to create.
he actually plays like 3 versions of
Yeah,
himself.
right.
so like I think it's an incredible talent, and the story was really fun. And Pedro Pascal is
did great.
hilarious. When they're high
Yeah.
on drugs and they're worried about the people finding them and stuff, and then they have that wall scene of
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal trying to pick him up.
Please use me as a human stool.
And then he tells him, "Oh, just leave me, go on." And then he walks around the wall, and he's like, "Oh, there's a way around." It was hilarious.
Yeah.
I thought it was such a great movie. Like I said, I don't know how well it did, but I think it's one of the best movies of the year. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. I can't remember what I what didn't work for me, but I liked it. I liked it. And one other thing that actors sometimes it's hard for them to kind of swallow their ego to be able to portray a version of themselves,
That is
right?
true.
And he's been in movies for 30, 40 years. I imagine it would have been hard for him to accept a role where he played himself, but played, like a silly version of himself.
Well, he also played a down on his luck version
Right,
of himself.
right.
Where
And then
he's
he-
like not in a good space.
Yeah, yeah. So I think kudos to
Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage for not only bringing his talent but also swallowing his ego for a really funny performance.
Yeah,
It
I think
was.
it's great because it just plays into all the memes of
It
Nick
really
Cage.
does. It really does. And the fact that he accepts it and just rolls with it is great. It was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Do you have a favorite Nicolas Cage meme?
Come on. There's only like one main one. It's like where he's like, "What are you doing?"
SNL has a really good parody of Nicolas Cage. It was an ongoing impression by Andy Samberg.
Oh, okay.
And he had a couple of catchphrases like "That's high praise," and so Andy Samberg would come onto Weekend Update and spout some nonsense as Nicolas Cage, and then there was one episode where Nicolas Cage actually came on, and sat
You're gonna
right
have to
next
look
to
that
him
up.
as he did his bit. And he threw insults right back at Andy Samberg. It was really
That's
great.
awesome.
That's awesome.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite kind of parody of Nick Cage.
I'm gonna have to look that up. Yeah. All right, Taylor, number 5.
My number 5 is actually The Unbearable Weight of Massive. Yeah, I enjoyed this movie so much.
It was such a good movie.
It was funny because that day, we were like, why is it so crazy?
That's the day.
Like, it was
That's
crowded.
right. Yeah, the lines at like the concessions and stuff was insane. Like
It literally took Scarlett like an hour and a half to get concessions.
Yeah.
She
Wow.
missed half the movie or
yeah.
whatever.
Wow.
because we went to Copley Commons, and you know how like the lines went from the counters all the way back to the doors, and there was like we had to wait outside for a little bit to even get into the place, and they had like 6 lines open, and all of them were full.
Wow.
It was insane. I don't even know why, because I don't think anything had just come out.
No,
other than
like,
that.
even
that
when
was
we-
the big movie in the theaters at the time.
Yeah. There was nothing like you would normally expect to have like a huge.
And I'm pretty
crowd.
sure it was a weekday, wasn't it?
I think so.
I think it might have been a Friday.
I feel like it was a Thursday though.
It was just a random thing. We were just like, what the hell? But thank you to Scarlett for being willing to stand in line and miss the movie, because that movie was incredible.
Yeah, I do think there are some points about it that are like not that great, but it's really just the fact that Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal do such a great
Yes.
job
Yeah.
of carrying the movie that I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Because there's elements of it, which I think we talked about in the review, that were, I guess, trying to be like a little serious or have like
Right.
action and stuff just for trailer moments or whatever. That was the weakest part of it, but the character development between them was the best part.
Yeah.
The bromance.
Yeah.
The bromance and the fact that the story of the movie is the movie.
Right.
Like they're trying to come up with a movie
a meta
about
movie.
2 people.
Yeah.
But like it's yeah. You're gonna have to watch it for yourself because it's kind of like Movieception, where it's just they're literally talking about themselves as they go. All right, Dad. Number 5. What is your 5th best movie of the year?
My 5th favorite movie of the year is Top Gun Maverick.
Nice.
I did not expect to put it in my top 5.
Really? Like you would have expected it lower?
I don't know that I when I was thinking about putting this list together, I don't know that it occurred to me to include it. I usually don't include tentpole movies into my lists, but I think this is different. I think this is kind of like the perfect combination of nostalgia and good writing and good filmmaking and good acting, good directing. And I just, the more I thought about it, the more I just thought that it was really well made and I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
So I thought they pulled it off great. And as I'm getting older, I'm starting to realize how strong nostalgia is as something that makes something valuable to me. And I'd be curious to see how as you guys grow older, how much nostalgia plays a role in the things that you like as you get older.
I think it already does.
Yeah, I kind of
because I think that like in the case of Top Gun Maverick, I think it that's what made the movie so great for me. It's on my list. It's higher than that, but it was, like you said, it was a perfect combination, and the opposite of that, the opposite of like you wanting the nostalgia factor but not getting it and they falling short, in my opinion, is Willow. I don't know if you've seen Willow on Disney Plus's new Willow series, but they really
give us a
dropped
brief.
Yeah,
I stopped watching. I think at episode 3 or 4. The episode,
Stronger than me.
Yeah. Well, I'm willing to endure a lot for nostalgia.
Yeah.
But when it came to the episode where they're trying to cast the spell on the kid in the castle, and it was taking like almost the whole episode to cast it, I just thought, this is ridiculous. This is terrible storytelling. They're dragging this plot point along for what? And so I stopped watching it after that. I felt like they were playing too much on the nostalgia strings.
So we actually did an initial reaction to Willow, and we both watched the first episode. Both hated it. It's one of the lowest rated movies on our channel. And I had said that I was willing to watch the rest of it so that we could do a final impressions similar to what we did for Halo.
Yeah.
Taylor took one for the team for Halo, so I was planning on taking one for the team for Willow. But I'll be honest, every time I like click on Willow to try and watch it, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Like they fumbled the ball so badly on the first episode that it's really hard for me to want to watch it. I think eventually I will, but they did a really bad job.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a perfect example of the opposite of the downside of a nostalgic effect. Like we wanted that because like I grew up on Willow. That was one of the movies that you had showed us as a kid, and to see them butcher it like that really sucked.
Yeah, and unfortunately, what I think makes Willow a large part of the film's appeal is the character of Madmartigan and Val Kilmer's performance, and no Val Kilmer in at least the episodes that I saw, and I can't imagine how they would weave him in with him in his condition now. It just really fell flat, and I don't usually stop watching things. I'll usually kind of tough it out.
Yeah.
But this one I just couldn't handle anymore, and I just stopped watching.
Did they?
Yeah, I got better things to do in my time.
Yeah. Did they do anything with his character at all? Because I know in the first episode they kind of like badmouth him. They kind of make it seem like he just up and left everybody to go protect the kid. But so do they try to redeem his character at all throughout the rest of the episodes that you have watched?
Madmartigan?
Yeah.
I think the tall criminal guy.
Yeah, the funny guy.
The cool guy.
He's kind of starting to share Madmartigan's story with the daughter.
He's telling her.
He's kind of I think he's more kind of like in a general sense, talking about where he came from and who his people were and that kind of thing. Man,
I don't want.
But that's not enough. I don't want to
watch it then because they they ruined Mad Mardigan, and they completely trashed him in the first episode.
Yeah.
So
And he was
All
the
right.
best part. He's the best part.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
he is for
Yeah.
sure.
All right. So number 4 for me was one of the most mind blowing movies I've watched all year. It absolutely boggled me, and it's probably something that a lot of people haven't watched. We did do an episode on it for our channel, but coming from somebody that is that has taken part in rescues, 13 Lives,
Yeah.
absolutely, just like I had a hard time focusing during the movie because I just the complexity and the story was just so mind-boggling to me that I had a hard time focusing. And 13 Lives is a it's a National Geographic, right?
No,
we
you're
thought
talking about the Amazon movie.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
came out this year.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
yeah.
original
Yeah,
documentary.
Yeah, sorry.
the rescue is the
Rescues.
National
The
Geographic.
Rescue. Yeah. So, yeah. What? Wait. No, I'm
Well,
confused.
13 Lives is the Amazon movie adaptation of it.
I had to. Okay.
But the documentary is the
Is the
Rescue.
Rescue.
That came out before that.
That came out last
Yeah,
year.
that came out last year. So the reason why I have 13 Lives on here is because obviously we didn't do this last year. But I really enjoyed watching the movie adaptation because it shows a different aspect of the rescue. The documentary from National Geographic shows the real life of what happened. And when I did watch that with you, it was incredible, and like I was still mind boggled. But 13 Lives actually shows a dramatized version of them getting the kids out and shows them like scuba diving them out and whatever. And it, like, I don't know, as somebody that's actually taking part in rescues, like, I don't think people really understand how hard that would be for them to do it. There are the 13 Lives, like, I would rather watch the rescue than watch 13 Lives, but because of the story and whatnot, and the fact that I couldn't put the rescue on here, I wanted to put 13 Lives on here.
Yeah,
It was-
it's actually just It's surprising me that it makes your list only because when we did the review, you
Yeah.
did not like the movie.
I didn't-
compared to the documentary.
I preferred the documentary over the movie, but like I said, I really wanted this to be on, like I really wanted the rescue to be on my list, but because it's not this year, I couldn't put it on there.
Yeah.
So I'm just like morphing my two experiences
Uh-huh.
of those movies together and just trying to like only have the good stuff.
If you hadn't seen The Rescue, where would this movie have stood on its own?
It's a good question. You watched the 13 Lives first, right?
Yeah. Oh no.
Did you watch the rescue first?
The rescue first. Yeah.
Okay, I think Christina watched the 13 Lives
Yeah.
first, and she shared with me that she really enjoyed it, and I think that I probably would have had a little bit of a problem with like Viggo Mortensen's performance and maybe some other people just because I wasn't knowledgeable of the story, like the finer details of the story.
Yeah.
Because I remember when that event happened. Like I remember hearing about those boys being trapped in the cave, and then I remember hearing that they found them all alive, and I was just like, "What? That's insane." But I think it probably would have. But I think that because I have both of those experiences together, I think it only amplifies the effect that it had on me.
Yeah, it was a great movie.
Yeah. How much does your life experiences play into how much you like a movie? Like in this case, you know, you as a firefighter, you're going to be able to relate to characters and situations more, and maybe that plays a little bit more into when you watch military movies as well. But do you tend to like films about things that you're knowledgeable about or that you've worked in?
I think there's good and bad. Because something like The Rescue, where it tells a story, 13 Lives tells a story about a rescue operation, and I have been part of rescue operations. I haven't done anything like that because obviously that's like the very, very, very extreme level. But like that the relative similarity to it allows me to connect it to it better. But I know I've also shared with you that I don't like watching firefighter dramas, right? Like all the TV shows like Chicago Fire or whatever. Like I don't like watching those because to me they're too much of a dramatization of what actually happens in a firehouse and the calls that we go on. And then it also applies to military movies. Like we've talked about it quite a bit on our channel that because we've both served, that we pick up finer details on like uniforms or movements and how people act or customs and courtesies and stuff that I think a lot of people don't really pick up, and it can affect our, or at least my perception on a movie, because it's authenticity and accuracy. And if they don't do things right, like if things are belligerently wrong, then it would like I would look at it and be like, well, that's dumb. Like this movie is dumb. Yeah. But it also could accentuate how I feel about a movie too. Like if everything is good and everything looks sharp, it doesn't. Yeah. It does help me feel better about that movie. So
yeah, I forgot that you served Marines, right?
No, I was in the Army.
Army. I forgot that you served as well.
Yeah.
Do you have the same feelings about military movies, about war movies? Do you kind of get taken out of it if you see something that's not accurate or kind of just outrageous?
It kind of depends. It varies from like film to film or even show to show. It really depends on what they're trying to portray. Mm-hmm. But in general, I would say yes. It's just like it can either make a bad movie worse or a good movie great.
Right. Yeah. There's I think there's very like specific things that we kind of look for. And I can give one example that I know both of us will agree to. Did you watch The Terminal List on Amazon?
I haven't seen it.
It stars Chris Pratt, and it's a TV show about him. He's a Navy SEAL, and it's actually a pretty good TV show. It's gut wrenching and it's pretty hard, but it's a pretty good TV show. However, the entire show, Chris Pratt has an absolutely obnoxious haircut,
right.
And for like two guys that have spent time in the military, that's a big thing with the military.
So right? Something as simple as that doesn't hurt the show, but it bothers us.
Because we're like, dude, you shaved.
And the thing is,
why did you cut your hair?
It's like, I know it's because you're playing Star-Lord later, but to do this role, you should have cut your hair.
Yeah. Especially when you're trying to portray someone who's the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
So, that I think that's probably a pretty good example of that. All right. I don't remember where we're at, to be honest.
I kind of got lost.
Oh no, I just shared number 4, 13 Lives. So for you, number 4, Taylor, what is your fourth best movie?
My number 4, which this kind of leads into what we were just talking about, is actually All Quiet on the Western Front.
Okay.
Now it's interesting because it does give me perspective, but I love this movie because it touches on things that do apply to like all service members. Right. But I actually like the fact that this film is a German version or side of the story. Yeah, perspective. And it's very, gritty, violent, depressing, and these are all real things that happen all the time. And the fact that it doesn't have any like big name actors or anything, and it's, obviously it was based off a popular book, but I would imagine most people that have seen this because it's on Netflix gets a bigger audience.
Yeah.
And so I just like the fact that it was amazing. The music's great. Like everything was just done well, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Did you get a chance to watch it?
I haven't seen it, and it's not. I think it's just something that I forget about whenever I'm in a position to watch a film. I think I've kind of just flipped through all the usual streaming platforms, just kind of looking for whatever's new. And I think at this point, it's not as new. It's not. It's kind of just newish, right? So it kind of gets buried a little bit.
Gets on the list.
I mean, it is in my queue. It's probably just further down.
What I will say about this movie is that it's not one that you could just sit down and throw on. It's something that I think deserves to, like, for you to, I don't think you have to, like, schedule it or anything, but, like,
it's a long movie.
I think it is a long movie, but what I mean is, like, the story that it tells and the way that it tells and everything that happens, we talk about it in our review of it that it's kind of like a reality check for a lot of people, and like I like to watch movies like that out of respect for the people of the stories that it tells, and so I think it's something that like you got to intentionally watch and not necessarily just sit down and be like, I have 2.5 hours. Let's watch this.
Yeah.
But it was incredible, and if when you do watch it, or if you do watch it, be ready for some pretty gut wrenching stuff. Is pretty,
especially because it's a Netflix movie.
yeah,
Like,
so they can kind of get away with a little bit more. Yeah, it was really good though.
Real quick, you mentioned that the film doesn't have any big name stars. What do you think? What does it take for a film to be good and for people to pay attention to it if it doesn't have any big name stars? Does the story have to be the star, or what do you think it would take, or what do you think it takes for you to be able to be willing to watch something that there's nobody you recognize in it?
I mean, I don't know. That might be a hard question for me to answer, but this was a World War One movie. It, like I said, it was based off of a best-selling book, so right. I think that carried most of the weight. Yeah. And then the fact that it's on Netflix, it's Netflix is such a huge platform now that if they Netflix, feature it, which it is a Netflix film, it's gonna be at least seen by people, like even if you're just scrolling through or whatever. And I think eventually, after reviews and stuff come out, people start like maybe hearing about it a little bit more, and then they get a little interested, and then
the pedigree that Netflix original brings to the movie industry now is a lot higher than it used to be.
Right. Because now they're just pumping money into it.
So I think that because it was a Netflix original, it helped out a lot. But to answer your question a little bit more directly, I think the story is what it has to be. It has to be a story that I resonate with, or something that I'm interested in. And I think when you have a movie that doesn't really have any notable actors, it's usually a story that I don't want to say people don't care about necessarily, but maybe just one that people don't think about very often. And those are the kinds of stories that intrigue me. Those are the kinds of things that make me want to watch something if it's something that's different and new. So I'm pretty much willing to watch anything except for like super scary movies and stuff. But
I mean, I watch everything.
Yeah.
Even if it's really, really bad, because I get different. I can pull different things for different reasons from all kinds of stuff.
So I do think it is the story that is what matters the most. All right, what is your fourth best movie of the year, Dad?
My number 4 movie is Vengeance. Now it kind of sounds it kind of sounds like a dark revenge thriller, but it's actually a pretty I think it's a satire about it's about this journalist, this podcaster who goes to Texas and gets kind of sucked into this story about how a girl got killed. Now, the reason he ends up going to Texas,
I remember this movie now,
is because he had dated the girl, or I think had actually just hooked up with the girl. Yeah. But the family was under the impression that they were together, that they were. I think they were engaged, and so he. What I really love about this movie is that it pokes fun at podcasters. Now, you guys are podcasters. I have a radio show, and I've worked on podcasts before. And kind of all the tropes and all the stereotypes that people make fun of when it comes to podcasting is kind of in this film, and they kind of poke fun at it. Not, I don't think in a malicious way, but in, just kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of way. But there is a mystery to unravel, and this guy is kind of this New York asshole who goes through his story arc. But I thought it was a really well-made movie. I don't know if I 100% agree with the ending, but I just like the idea that somebody made a movie about podcasting and kind of poked fun at it.
What was this on?
This came out in
this sounds
theaters.
familiar.
It came out to theaters, right?
It came in theaters. I saw it in theaters. Stars BJ Novak from The Office, and I believe he wrote and directed it as well.
I'm pretty sure that if you watch the trailer, you'd be like, "Oh, right, I remember this movie." Because this is one of
Because
the
it
movies
sounds
that,
so familiar.
that I remember wanting to watch, but just never got around to doing it.
Yeah. I think I want to say it's streaming somewhere now,
It probably is.
but I couldn't tell you
so
where. Maybe
fast.
like Hulu or something like that. But it's worth a watch. I mean, especially if
if it's on your number 4,
yeah,
then
and
it's
especially if
gotta
you
be.
podcast, you'll
Yeah.
recognize some of the tropes and some of the jokes.
I think it's important that you be able to laugh at yourself sometimes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
So like I don't mind watching somebody make fun of podcasters because I'm sure I do dumb stuff and I'm sure I will relate to a lot of the things that they make fun of. So yeah, I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, I
Vengeance.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Vengeance. It's just funny because we use that line all the time on our show because it's something that we make fun of the Batman for. All
I
right.
love it. But I love it.
All right, so number 3 is a movie that I rewatched recently, and I loved it even more the second time I watched it. We watched it in theaters. I think we watched it together. I don't remember for sure, but I loved it. I liked it in theaters. We had some differences in opinion about the movie, and then I rewatched it again, and I really, really enjoyed it. So number 3 for me is Bullet Train.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that movie. I thought it was a really fun story that had a lot of twists and turns. Some were predictable, but because of the level of fun that I had throughout the movie, I didn't mind predictable turns because it just kind of played into the ambiance and the tone of the movie, in my opinion. And I love Michael Shannon.
Yeah.
And to see him in that role as like the big bad guy was really cool. And obviously we got Hiroki as well, which is always good to have. And I'm not really a huge Brad Pitt fan, and I probably would say that he was like the weakest part of the movie, but everything all together made it really fun for me.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the movie. And then watching it the second time, I was trying to look for a lot of the things that we had talked about during our podcast on it, and I think like if we were to go back and talk about the finer points, then I think there's some things that I might be able to share with you that could kind of like, I don't know, change your mind, but maybe explain some of the issues that you had with it. Because after I watched it, I went back and listened to our episode on it just to try and remember what it is that we didn't like about it. But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't remember off my head what I had talked about it after
Yeah.
we reviewed it, but I did see it. Like a lot of these movies on my list, I have watched
Multiple times.
at least twice, maybe more.
Yeah.
And this is one of my movies that I've watched multiple times because it came on the streaming service.
Now it's on Netflix. Yeah.
Still hasn't changed my mind. I
Okay,
just wasn't
yeah.
a big fan of it. It was nothing bad or anything. It's just to me it was, I don't know. Like I just thought it wasn't anything, I guess, new to me. So it just was okay. I actually am a big fan of Brad Pitt, and his character is.
Yeah.
It's actually almost like stupid that he's like the star, but that's really they almost use him as like just to get people
just
into
a
the
bait,
movie,
yeah.
which I don't like, because that means he shouldn't have been there because he is honestly the weakest character in this movie.
Yeah.
To best of my opinion, being the brothers or the twins
Yeah. Yeah.
are absolutely the strongest characters.
Yeah.
They're funny. They're great. They're what's it called? Like
They're dynamic.
yeah,
and they're-
dynamic
Yeah.
between each other is the best part of the movie. But yeah, I don't know.
No, I think it's important that we can disagree on movies because everybody has different preferences. Everybody has different things they look for in movies. So I think it's important that we can disagree on it. So, you know what? I'm totally fine with that. All right, Taylor, what is your number 3?
Let me just double check, make sure. Oh yeah, my number 3 is Avatar.
Avatar 2. Wow. Okay. I will say that Avatar 2 is not on my list.
Avatar 2 is in my honorable mention. Yeah.
I'll let you share why first before I talk about it. Go ahead.
I don't know. Like, I enjoyed the first movie a lot. I enjoy the second one even more. I think it has a lot going for it than most people care to look for
Sure.
in a movie. because a lot of the times, especially nowadays, like people have such a short attention span. So when they go on to like the internet and social media, they just look at a brief like reaction to something, and then they adopt that mindset or belief
Yeah.
and just hold on to it
Yeah.
instead of like taking it, be like, okay, and then going to have their own opinion and maybe like seeing where
Or
they
looking
can.
for other versions. They're like,
Yeah, I mean, just getting a
points,
their own perspective on
yeah,
something.
yeah.
I feel like that had a huge influence on this movie going into it, but I will say I'm glad to see that this movie is doing way better
Yeah.
than everybody supposedly
Thought it was
gonna be.
Right.
It is a it's a James Cameron movie. He
Right.
goes big, and most people like. I think it's kind of like a saying of never challenge James Cameron when it
Sure.
comes to his like movies.
Or his willingness to do whatever it takes to
Yeah,
to make his movie.
because he makes great movies. Some of them are among the best. I just love really like everything about this movie, except for like the little things that we talked about during the
Yeah.
review. But they're so minor that I just don't care.
Sure.
And especially because I had actually seen some interesting reactions to this movie in the portrayal of the new tribe, and that being Polynesian,
Right.
which happens to
I've
be
seen some
relatable to us.
really mixed-
It's
Yeah.
so weird that
Yeah.
people who know nothing about our culture, whether, I mean, this is not Hawaiian specific, but
No, it's
just Polynesian in general,
Yeah.
nobody really knows about our culture and our people. To have such a weird reaction to
Yeah.
finding it like bad or insulting when
Yeah,
they don't know anything.
I've seen that. I've seen some people saying like, "Oh, this is a cultural appropriation" and all this other stuff, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I didn't feel that way at all.
Exactly. Like,
Like,
I felt the complete opposite because
Yeah.
how often do you get to see on a huge screen the portrayal of anything like Polynesian?
Yeah, and they didn't hold back either, in my opinion. Like
I thought everything was
they
done in
had-
such a respectful way too.
Yeah, they had the tattoo or the tattoos. They had the interaction with their land and with the water, because for Polynesians, the water is everything.
A lot of the actors that were chosen
Yeah.
were
So
specifically picked because they were from New Zealand.
something I didn't know going into the movie was the voice of the chief, who is Cliff Curtis.
Yes.
And
It's great.
I love Cliff Curtis. And when I was watching, I was like, this guy sounds super familiar, and I'm gonna punch myself when I go look up who it is.
Oh yeah, now
And
going back
when
and you
yeah,
look at him, you're like,
I'm
of course.
Yes. Cliff Curtis is from, well, I most know him from Whale Rider.
Right.
And like to see him get that role is amazing. And I loved, what I will say is I loved that aspect of the movie. The Polynesian part. I mean, I even shared in our podcast that like the most emotional I got during that movie was watching them interact with the Tukun. Like, that was incredible for me. It really struck home with me and like my connection to the water and whatnot. So the only reason why I didn't make it on my list is I thought that the story just was a little too unoriginal, like as far as bringing back Colonel what is his name? What's his name?
I don't
Colonel.
I
Yeah,
forget
we're
now.
we're so
Yeah, I
bad
forget
with
now.
character names. And it, like, I don't think it's a bad movie. I enjoyed myself watching
Yeah.
it. I think that it probably is it's on my honorable mentions list, like all the movies that I was trying to pull from. So it was in the conversation. It just didn't make it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and
you're actually somebody that didn't like the first one, really.
right. I had issues with the first one just because I didn't think the story was that original, but I thought the visuals were groundbreaking for sure, and I a lot of respect to James Cameron for that. And when this was announced, I wasn't that excited about it, and then when it was 3 hours long, I thought, am I willing to sit through another one of these? But I enjoyed it. I thought it moved along very well.
Yeah.
I thought the character development was really well done. I liked the several themes in there. Themes about forgiveness, about outcasts, about being respectful of nature and being in communication with nature. I think those are all those are all good themes to have in films. I don't think I had any issues with the film. I just had other films I liked better. There was one funny thing that I kept thinking throughout the whole film, though, is that when they're underwater, and a lot of water scenes, everything was okay to touch, right? And like, when
That
we
is
go
a
to
good point.
yeah, when we're in the deep, when we're in the water here, you got to be aware of vana. You got to be aware of stinging things that sting you or things that might bite you. And I was watching. I was like, man, I wish I could go to a part of the ocean where I could just touch anything and not be afraid of anything.
That is a good
Yeah.
point. I remember you mentioning it after that, because like really the only dangerous thing that was in the water was that one shark.
Yeah, the one thing
Well,
yeah.
that you see.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. Is like that's the only thing that we saw. So
Yeah.
that is true.
But otherwise, I thought it was good, and I noticed there were some similarities between some Polynesian culture, specifically Maori culture, but I don't feel like it was done in a disrespectful way.
I don't think
and
so.
also,
Yeah.
it's not exactly the culture,
Right.
and this is a fictional story set in a fictional place. It's going to bear some resemblance to something
Yeah.
in real life. So the people that were offended or felt it was cultural appropriation, I think they're overthinking it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Dad. What do you got for number 3?
All right, number 3 is this very small movie called A Love Song, and it's about a woman, I think maybe in her 50s or 60s, and her husband or her partner has passed away, and she's camping out on the edge of this lake somewhere in the rural west, maybe somewhere in Colorado next to a mountain.
Okay.
And she's waiting for the boy that she met there something like 40, 50 years ago at camp. And so she said she has this deal with this boy that she met at camp, all those years ago, that, they would meet again on this day at this time at this place. And it's a very simple movie about this woman who's dealing with her grief and who is waiting for this guy to show up. And he shows up, and they have an interaction, and there's some other small characters in the film. There's a lot of the film, or some of the film has a real Wes Anderson feel, but the rest of the film really kind of is just a long shot of a woman going through this grief process. It's a very simple story. It's a very small movie, and it's a very slow burn too. So if it's really meant for somebody who wants to kind of take their time to watch a woman process her feelings. I really liked it. I thought it was a very well done, well acted film with a lot of kind of different themes, and it's kind of interesting to watch this woman kind of deal with her grief, and in a way that it didn't really work. Well, I don't want to give away the ending, but it worked out in a different way than what she expected. But well done, well acted. Wes Studi is in it. You may know Wes Studi from a lot of Native American films.
Oh, okay.
And then this other lady, Dale Dickey, is in it. And what I love about her is that she is a very weathered-looking woman, and I don't think there's a lot of roles for women, for older women, especially older women that look old.
Yeah.
In a lot of movies, but she's the star, and she does a really great job of carrying the whole movie and being the emotional center of the movie. So I just really enjoyed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, where did you watch it at?
I had to rent it on Amazon, I believe.
Okay. How did you hear about it?
I have friends that look
Yeah.
for these kinds of movies. So I think somebody sent me the trailer one day, said, "Hey, this looks interesting. If it ever comes to theaters, let's go watch it."
Okay.
And I don't think it came here, but when I found that it was streaming, I made a point to watch it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd like to check that one out too. I got like 3 movies to watch today. All right. So before we get into our last 2 picks for top movies of the year, pretty sure that for everybody, actually no, not you, because you already said one of them.
Oh, okay.
For us two, pretty sure our top 2 are the same 2 movies, but they might be in a different order. Yeah, that's what I'm guessing.
Okay.
But we'll see. We'll see. But I don't know what I know what your number 1 is, but I don't know what
Right.
your number 2 is.
Okay.
So for me, number 2 is Top Gun Maverick.
Mm-hmm.
Like you had shared earlier, incredible mixture of nostalgia and action and good story writing and good performances and the aerial shots and everything, just the authenticity of it because they actually did it, like they actually filmed in a plane, and it really pushed that movie over the top, and we had waited a long time for it.
Right.
It's one of those movies that, like a lot of movies recently, they make sequels to movies, but it's not really anything that we asked for, But we've been waiting for a Top Gun sequel for a long time, and to finally get it, and for it to be so good, was very satisfying for me. Like to come out of that theater and think to myself, "Wow, that was incredible," and then going to see it again like the next day, and then seeing it again the day after that. Like, there's not a whole lot of movies that I am willing to go watch more than once in the theater. So, Top Gun Maverick, you got my number 2 spot for this year. Taylor?
That is my number 2 as well.
Yes! Yes!
I will say I disagree in your opinion to say that this movie was expected. I actually think this part of the reason this movie is so good is because it is a movie we did not know we needed.
Okay.
I have never met a person that has seen Top Gun and thought, wow, I can't wait for the sequel. Because there was never going to be a sequel. It was like a singular story to me that fit perfectly in itself. And I feel like there's a lot of movies that do this, but then they're like, oh, I want more money, so let's franchise it.
Right.
But this movie came out and just blew me away on so many levels.
How many times did you watch this movie?
I believe I saw this movie 5 times in the theaters.
I've never seen a movie more than 3.
Yeah.
Wow.
But explain why though, because it's not like you just went to a normal screening. 5 times.
So I go to the biggest theater in Oahu, which is Dole. This theater has all the different types of screens and stuff you can see. And when I first saw this movie in IMAX, I loved it.
Yeah.
Watched it again in standard, and then we reviewed it.
Right.
And then I went back because I enjoyed it so much and watched it in 4DX, which is still to this day for me the best movie ever made in 4DX. And then
4DX is the one where you like sit in a chair and the chair kind of moves.
yeah, it's almost like a theme park ride.
Yeah.
Wow. Where'd you see that at?
It's at
Dole.
Dole County.
Is that Dole? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And there's all the big movies come out typically in 4DX, like Marvel and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But to me, Top Gun Maverick was the perfect movie to show off
Yeah.
this thing, which was the first time I had experienced 4DX. Because before, I kind of thought it was just like a gimmick thing that would not be enjoyable.
Right.
And I was wrong. Like, at least for that movie,
Yeah.
it was just perfect.
Could you imagine me sitting in your chair and then the chair moves as the plane moves?
Yeah, so like whenever
and it
you're in a
syncs up
cockpit
with-
view,
yeah.
like you feel everything, and like when bullets whiz past you, you feel like air shooting at
air,
you.
yeah.
If they're flying over the ocean or near the mountain, you smell
Wow.
the
Yeah.
nature and all that kind of stuff.
Shoot, man.
It was crazy.
I thought you knew about
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
I would have been willing to see that. Wow. Yeah.
I honestly, when they brought it back in theaters, I was so excited, and I did watch it again. But I wanted them to bring it back in 40X
Yeah.
because I wanted you
I
to
would've-
experience
I
it.
would have went. I would have went if they had brought it back to 48.
It was just so good. This is probably one of those movies where I do have a little bit of like a bias because of like not necessarily personal experience in like any particular thing, but just because it's like military and I have like a military family, and then like being so interested in like those kind of stories.
Well, it's also a connection. You have a connection to the original movie, and we have a connection to that movie. Something that a lot of people don't know is that it's like one of our, I would say it's one of the like first like bonding things that we had when we were first becoming friends in high school and stuff. Like I still remember standing in the hallways of SLS and calling out Tom Cruise Top Gun.
Oh, yeah.
And it, like these are all just random
Inside
high school inside joke
jokes,
things that we had, but like and that matters. I think it matters that like we had that connection over the movie. You have the connection because of your family and stuff, and I think it's important that the movie did well enough that it satisfied that connection.
Yeah. I know that even Scarlett, like, she had her own little connection to the movie because, like, of her relationship with her dad and stuff. so it kind of hit her in a little bit of a different way, but
Yeah.
like the same like level or equal level. But I just I don't know, everything about it was just so perfect. The music, the way it was shot, everything, like you said, was the perfect amount of nostalgia. And I think it's interesting to me that this movie did so well, and yet people will use the exact thing that happens in this movie as a negative for another movie. Whereas a lot of people I see hate nostalgia now,
Yeah.
and they use that as an example of
Yeah.
why something's bad, which I don't understand why. And even if it's something because like you said, it's a tentpole movie. It's not. It's not like anything super complex or anything. But in my opinion, if you can do something so simple and yet make it so exciting and interesting, then that says something to me about you as a writer and a director.
Yeah.
And I think the nostalgia part of it, I think, works for it, and they don't go overboard, right? They don't bring back Goose,
Yeah.
in CG form or anything like that. But there's a lot of parallels from the first movie. The thing that I want to ask is, does the similarity of the final mission with Star Wars, does that add or detract from the movie? Because I caught it right away. I mean, as soon as he started describing the mission, that was just
How it
yeah, and I was
everything.
like, this is just
You gotta
Star Wars.
fly through this,
Yeah.
this mountain range, then you gotta drop some missiles in the tiniest holes,
Right.
and that's the only thing that can defeat this one thing.
Right, and then you gotta fly
get
out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, being such a big Star Wars fan, but not being a fan of mixing stories and mixing genres, it rubbed me wrong a little bit at first, but ultimately, I don't think I counted it against the film. So, I mean, it's in my top 5. I really enjoyed it. But what did you guys? Did that bother you at all? That it kind of seemed the same as Star Wars?
No, I'll be honest. I didn't catch it until after the movie, after the first time I saw it, and then when I watched it again, I can't imagine. I'm sure there's another way you could write this story to make it as exciting and as thrilling, but I can't imagine another way. Like, I can't imagine another way to tell that story or have a story within the movie that brings the level of excitement and danger and the ability to show off the technology
Yeah.
that we have advanced to be able to showcase that. You know what I mean? Like the fact that they were in the planes and experiencing real G's and all of that stuff. So I'm sure there's somebody out there could probably come up with a different type of story, but considering all of that, for me, I think it was a good enough story that it didn't bother me.
Yeah, I think I would say about the same, and I think it's just because I have a different perspective on it. So you're right; it does, relate a lot to Star Wars, but to me, I'm looking at it as okay, I have this weapons facility that has nuclear warheads that I need to keep secure. The layout of everything is what I would do.
Yeah.
Like if I was to defend this, of course I'm going to stick it in the valley because as soon as they leave, they enter, the no man's zone basically.
Oh yeah.
The upper airspace of what I would be
Yeah.
controlling or something. Yeah. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to me that it's built that way. The fact that it has the scapegoat, one little thing that they can fly down, sure. But in the movie, they kind of explain it nobody in real life, you would never attempt something like that generally, just because of how insanely difficult that would be. So it doesn't bother me. I understand that makes sense, and I totally get it.
But you're able to look at it from a perspective of being within the confines of this story, it is the only possible way.
Right, because the only other way would be going a completely different way of it's going hyper futuristic, which would have killed the movie for me. There's another, it's an old movie that I forget what it's called. I think it's Stealth. Horrible.
Oh yes.
This
yes.
is
I know what you're talking about.
like
that's where the AI kind of takes over.
Yeah. That would be the alternative, which I do not like. Because my favorite thing about this movie, even though it does play into nostalgia, is it's still grounded in reality, and the fact
Yes.
that they were just using F-18s, and
Yeah, it's not even the most advanced aircraft that we have today.
right, like because a lot of the stuff we use in the military, it's the oldest stuff.
Yeah.
We can't afford anything.
can't
dude.
afford
Even though our budgets
F-35s.
that people like will complain about and they're like, oh, we need to cut the budgets. Man, I didn't even get an M4 for my first like 2 years in the army.
Yeah.
I was struggling. Like we had these like Gulf 4
Vietnam-
M16s that you could
Vietnam.
like break by shaking them. Yeah, like a lot of our stuff really is from Vietnam still,
Yeah.
and we're still using it to this day. And in this movie, which is also a good example, is what is like China basically, which you know they try to like
They tried not.
they
to
try to
put a
stay
name
away
to
from
it.
that, but
Yeah.
it's clearly China.
Yeah.
They're rocking F-35s.
Yep.
We literally sold them that because they're so expensive. We just don't even want to like
We can't
attempt
afford
to do anything with them. But they're so cool and so advanced that of course they would have it because they're like our, you know, whatever you want to call
it. Yeah.
opposition.
No, you are right. Yeah. I really enjoyed the movie though. Thought it was really solid.
Yeah.
All right, Dad. Number 2 best movie of the year.
All right, my number 2 movie is The Whale.
Man. All right. This makes me so.
This
upset.
is actually another movie I wanted to
Yeah.
watch.
So this is a movie that probably would have made it on my list. The trailer alone gave me chicken skin, and made me emotional, and it was just a trailer. So yeah, take it away.
I won't spoil anything for you, but I will say that all the reports of this being an excellent performance by Brendan Fraser are correct.
Nice.
This is really well done by him, and I think when you know people like the characters in the movie and you know situations like the characters in the movie, I think that always kinds of brings you a little bit closer to the story that's being told.
Yeah.
And so I've known some shut-ins in my lifetime, and I've known some fathers who have had some rocky relationships with their daughters, and you know you always put a little piece of yourself in to a film when you're watching it as well, right? What would I do if this happened to me? And there's a lot of that, and it was a very emotional movie as well. It played on a lot of emotions that I think I have as a father, in worrying, maybe not worrying, but you know, wanting a good relationship with my daughters. There's also an excellent performance by Hong Chow, and I don't think she gets the credit that she deserves. I think she will probably pretty soon, maybe, hopefully for this movie, if not for this movie, maybe in the years to come. But she's the second lead. She's the Asian lady, the Asian actress that's in this film.
The caretaker or whatever.
Yeah, and she's been in some other films, and I think if you saw her, you would recognize her from something else. And I've seen her in a few other films that she's done just really good work in. There's some other plot lines that go on and some other characters that come in and out, and I don't know that I'm a Darren Aronofsky fan. I don't know if I like all his movies.
Yeah.
But he explores a lot of themes in his movies that I think are important and are interesting for somebody who claims to be an atheist to explore some clearly Christian themes in his films is an interesting take. So I thought it was really well acted, really well shot, really well directed, and I just really, really liked it. The only reason that it's not my favorite movie is because I think it's a little too good. Like it's a little too
Like
too
it plays
perfect.
Like emotional.
Yeah,
Just too much.
yeah. Like I wish he would have surprised me a little bit more. Like I watched it and it was what I expected.
Yeah.
But it was a really good film, and if you guys get a chance to see it, I think you guys will connect to it. Even if you don't have a daughter, or even if you don't know somebody that was a shut-in or anything like that, it was really well done.
I 100% plan on watching the movie.
Yeah, me
It's
too.
probably one of the movies I want to watch the most. Did you see the standing ovation that the crowd gave to Brendan Fraser? It was like 2 months ago or so at like an advanced screening or something.
Yeah.
Brendan Fraser's reaction to that standing ovation was incredible. Like there's a lot of actors out there that are, I don't know how to put it nicely, but just they know who they are, and But Brendan Fraser looked like he had no. To me, it looked like he didn't expect anybody to like his movie, and it was such an incredible, humbling thing to see from somebody that like I hold in high regard because of like the Mummy
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing I will say is it's not surprising to me because being a '90s kid,
Yeah.
I love Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
Right.
But of course, because we grew up with him.
Yeah.
But to most people, I would say now they don't even know who he is.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
It was
and
incredible.
and he was blacklisted for a while because of some accusations that he made.
Yeah.
And I think working on the Mummy movies, I think he physically broke down some as well, and I think he was less willing to do certain types of movies because his body just wouldn't be able to take it. But sometimes when you get blacklisted, you fall out of the spotlight, and sometimes people take it to heart and they kind of just fade themselves.
Yeah.
But sometimes we'll get stories like this where Brendan Fraser is back, where he this pause in his career actually benefited him in that he's gotten these really good roles lately, and it's happened to a couple of other actors that I off the top of my head, like John Travolta disappeared for a while,
that is
came
true.
back with Pulp Fiction, and actually Matthew McConaughey's career changed after he
that is
stopped
true.
wanting to do romantic comedies.
Yeah.
And so he was out of work for a few years because those are all the scripts he was getting.
Yeah, he was very
And
typecasted.
Yeah.
And so he decided not to take those anymore. And then he comes back with Dallas Buyers Club, and then launches what they're calling the reconnaissance or whatever whatever they call it, right?
That's a good
Whatever
one.
they're
I like
calling
that.
it. Yeah,
I like it.
yeah. So
Reconnaissance.
the
All right.
yeah. So being blacklisted or taking a pause in your career could hurt you. It probably hurts most actors.
Yeah. I'd
Yeah,
say
I'm sure it's
most.
probably a large proportionally bad.
But this is so great to see him back, and he's had a few roles before. I've seen him in a couple of things that came out on Netflix last year.
His biggest, I think, before this movie was his character in Doom Patrol. Sorry.
Right, Doom Patrol was one. There was another film that Steven Soderbergh did, and I can't remember the name of the title right now, but he had a pretty big role in that as well. But this one is he just crushes it, and I would be shocked if he's not nominated. I would probably be shocked if he didn't win as well. Not that I think he's the most deserving, but it's just a really good performance.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch
Yeah,
it.
I'm more excited to watch it.
Yeah, really excited to watch it. Do you know? I know that he gained weight for the role, but do you know if it's completely him, or is there some prosthetics or a suit?
Yeah, there's prosthetics
Yeah,
involved.
so there's gotta
Just
be prosthetics.
the amount of
Yeah, it would be.
of girth that he has is I don't think that would be sustainable for someone in his position. So
Well, it would be very dangerous for
Yeah.
him health wise.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to know. I've read a little bit on it, but I didn't dive too deep into it. So, all right. So, our number one movie of the year, with the revealing of number two for all three of us, I am pretty sure that we all have the same best movie of 2022.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, unless you're about to throw
Unless
the
I'm
biggest
about to give you a
curveball.
M. Night Shyamalan twist.
Yeah, unless you're about to throw the biggest curveball of all. So this movie, ladies and gentlemen, came out in I want to say May or June.
I think it's the first half.
Yeah, first half of 2022. And this is actually the first movie that Taylor. Stop me if I'm about to just you're about to throw a giant curveball at me. But this movie is the first movie that me and Taylor have ever given a 10 out of 10 rating for. And it was just absolutely incredible. So, my number one movie of the year.
Let's just stop. We can all say at the same time.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So all of ours number one movie of the year is
Everything,
Everywhere, all
All
at
at
once.
Once. Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. I still think about the movie to this day, and anytime anybody asks me what my favorite movie is, I have a hard time suppressing that movie from coming to the top of my head. The impact it left on me walking out of that theater after watching it, and even during it, the whole time, the whole movie, I was just like everything was just blowing me away. I just couldn't handle the craziness. Uh, it stars Michelle Yeoh, and I think it's Michelle Yeoh's best performance of her career. I don't think that I definitely haven't watched all of her movies, but she killed it, and the the story that it tells, and the themes that it involves, and the tone that it has, and the combination of all these different like genres of movies was just it was insane, absolutely insane, and I loved every second of the movie. So,
Yeah.
Taylor, how did you feel about everything everywhere all at once?
This was a another surprise for me, just
Yeah.
because I at the time was like avoiding, which I try to do this for a lot of things, avoid like sometimes even trailers and just information on new movies. When this movie came out and I went to go see it, like, I mean, for all the same reasons, like everything about it was just amazing to me, and the like experience that I got from it
Yeah.
was so like powerful that like that and the fact that the entire theater felt the same way throughout the movie was so interesting to me to experience.
Yeah.
Similar to like A Quiet Place,
Yep.
the like ambiance of the watching the film adds to the adds to it, and just so happened that when I went to go see it, it was like all couples, and because of course one of the arcs that the movie
Yeah.
talks about is their
The
marriage. You know, plays a huge emotional aspect to it, and that coupled with like I know through like even Scarlett or like some of our friends, their experiences with their families and stuff.
Sure.
It all kind of just like comes together in this like wonderful, thrilling, exciting, sad, emotional, just
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, just huge mix of everything, everywhere,
Everywhere.
all at once.
Yeah, they packed a lot into it, but not in an overdone kind of way.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of action, lot of different themes, a lot of comedy.
Yeah.
And some things that I didn't quite understand, but kind of made sense later. Kind of not giving you everything up front, but kind of doling out some of the information as the story went on. But I know for me, the biggest theme in the film was a parent's attempt to not lose their child.
Yeah.
And I think any parent worth their salt, I think one of their greatest fears is always, losing their child, and not just in a physical way, but in a relational way, in a spiritual or mental way as well. They don't ever want to be disconnected from their child, and so to watch the journey that Michelle Yeoh's character goes on to not lose her daughter, that was the thing that stuck out the most to me, and I think that was the thing I connected to the most. But it was just really well done, and I love these movies that are outside the box, that introduce new themes as if they're just normal movie making themes, and I think this writer and the directors did a really good job of pulling this one off. It could have blown up in their face. It could have
Yeah, I could easily see this getting messed up and just bombing.
Yeah,
But
it was
they managed to stick it
They-
very well.
yeah.
They walked that fine line, and they nailed it. Something that I really loved about the film was that it broke down a lot of stereotypes, and it really shone a light on some stereotypes that are, or some issues that are pretty prevalent in today's society, like with the fact that the daughter was lesbian, and the Michelle Yeoh's character's fear of how her family would accept it because she's traditional Chinese, and it just, I love the way that they broke it down, because there's a lot of movies that come out nowadays that are trying to do that. They're trying to like break down that issue and incorporate that issue into the movie, but it feels so forced and so injected into it that it's hard for people to accept. But in this movie, the way that they do it is flawless to me. Like I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the connection between Maria Show Yu's character and the husband, and the curveball that threw at the end of the movie with him wanting a
Do you know his
divorce and
name?
everything. Yeah, that's something that we're always
because I mean,
horrible at.
I know him, but I know him as a kid.
So he's
Data.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah from
He's Data from the Goonies.
Yeah.
And
There's also the
He's
I don't know his
also,
name, but in Indiana
short,
Jones.
is it? I want to say sidekick or short kick or short.
short stuff.
Short. I'm gonna look it up because. He was somebody that was important in the 80s and the 90s as a young actor, right?
Yeah.
Somebody that was different on screen, and for somebody when I watched the Goonies, to see somebody on screen that was Asian and featured so prominently,
Yeah.
and even though he was kind of goofy, he was the smartest kid of the bunch, right? He wasn't picked on. He wasn't the joke of everything.
Right.
So that was important, and then he disappeared for like years.
For a long time.
Yeah, and we didn't know where he
He
went.
did a lot of stuff in Asia, right? Like he did a lot of Chinese movies and stuff, right?
I think so. I think so.
Seeing him come back in this movie was great.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, it was great.
And the fact that because of how the movie or like the universe in this movie works, you kind of get that same feeling
Yep.
of like a throwback to him as Data, you know?
I loved the way that they did the whole like interdimensional universe thing, especially in a day and age where there's a lot of movies that are tackling that.
Yeah.
Type of
we talked about this.
Yeah,
in the review.
multiverse. The multiverse.
Exactly.
Yeah,
This
the
is
multiverse aspect.
This
Like,
is
this
in my opinion, the best representation of a multiverse.
It's incredible, and I think it's such a. I'm sure there may be somewhere that it derived its idea from, or maybe it is completely original. But to me, it's original because I don't know anything else that does the whole transferring of minds across universes is by having earphones and then having to do something.
Some random thing.
Yeah, something random to like jolt you into that. So it was really cool to see them do it. And the coolest thing I think the thing that made it work so well is that with multiverse stuff in like the MCU and whatnot, you're seeing like superheroes and you're seeing like like the most elite athletes and fighters and stuff do the whole multiverse thing. In this movie, it's an old Chinese lady that runs a laundromat.
Yeah.
That ends up being a intra-universe traveler. So it's just really cool to see that within her. But we also know Michelle Yeoh from all of her kung fu movies and stuff. So
Crouching Tiger.
to see her be able to reach back and still be able to do that was also, I think, a little bit of a nostalgia, but just really cool to see. So.
Ke Quan is the name of the actor.
Quan,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he had that small role in Finding Ohana at the beginning of 2021, I believe. And then I thought when I saw him back on the screen, I thought, oh, that's cool. He's back on the screen, but I don't think his character was that memorable. And I actually remember thinking, oh, he might have lost some ability there. But then you see him in this film, and his range is much bigger in this film. Yeah. So he really pulled it off.
The range of everybody in the film is incredible.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yep.
I think she should be nominated for Best Supporting Actress.
Yeah.
Because she terrified me.
Yeah.
And then she also grossed me out.
Yeah.
And like it was such a
Yeah.
It was such a wild like mix of emotions from everything that it kind of overloaded me.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I really, 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 really liked that movie.
It's unusual for me to watch a movie so early in the year and like it so much that it stays at the top of my list.
I imagine there's probably a direct correlation between release date and I think that's why a lot of movies try to stuff their movies in at the end of the year, right?
Yeah,
it's a
especially
award
for
thing.
Academy Awards and
Yeah,
stuff.
which is
Yeah.
not
So it's
exactly
fresh.
a good thing.
Yeah,
but I understand.
That's actually the first movie that I walked out of the theater thinking that it was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I walked out of that theater, I knew I was giving it a 10. I didn't have to think about it. And there's a lot of movies where I have to really think about what kind of score I want to give it for this channel. when I walked out of that theater, I was like, that is a 10. And then my next thought was like, I don't know if Taylor's gonna like that movie. Like, I just don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
it's because you probably see a limited view of what. Like,
no,
I'm
it's
interested
just
in.
because I know that we have such a different like take on movies. So I got a lot of movies that we watch. I have no idea whether or not you're gonna like it or not.
Yeah.
So
It's so funny just because it's like the opposite for me because I watch so much, like so many things
Yeah,
I know
such
you
a
won't
variety
even
of
touch
yeah.
that it's weird that you would say that about me.
Yeah.
I think it's a pleasant surprise too.
No,
right?
that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Like when
yeah.
he told me, when we sat down and we were doing the episode, because we didn't talk about it prior to, we didn't say a word. And so when we started the episode and then we got into the scores and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna give this movie a 10. I was like, yes! Like, thank God, I loved this movie. Like, I was thinking, like, man, am I gonna have to like defend this movie? Or,
No, this is a great
Yeah.
movie.
It was phenomenal.
Real quick, what is your favorite, or at least one of your favorite scenes?
You know what? This is really stupid.
Oh no.
But the fact that I knew that they were gonna try and stick that trophy up their butt, I just remember, like they're foreshadowing it.
Well, it's funny hearing it because, of course, you're older than.
They like,
yeah.
when I watch movies, sometimes my brain will switch to the technical part of it. Like, why is that in the frame? Is this going to be used at a later
Right.
time in the movie? And it just so happened that early in the movie, I saw those trophies, and I'm like, why are these trophies so prominent in the frame?
Yeah.
And then I thought, and then as it was revealed that, you had to do certain things to be able to switch dimensions,
Yeah.
right?
Like,
and then
switching to the other person.
yeah, and then I thought, oh my God, somebody's gonna have to put this in her butt. And so, I'm not saying that's my favorite scene, but
it is
it's
funny.
that's like
it's so funny.
that's like movie
It's
genius,
even more
right?
funny
Yeah.
hearing it from you,
Yeah.
just because this might be just an age thing, but like I know, and I know that he knows that as soon as it comes on screen, it makes sense that you're looking at it like, oh, why is that there? And
Yeah.
I guess to an extent we do that, but because we look at it and it's like that's a butt
It's a
plug.
butt
Yeah,
plug.
yeah.
It's intentionally butt plug.
Yeah. It was hilarious.
It's funny because it's like
Because
I
it
mean,
makes
we're talking
sense.
about the
'Cause
movie. It plays on multiple levels
Yeah.
because one, the IRS, it's an award. Of course it is because
Yeah.
they're assholes. Like
Yeah.
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 No, I think it was perfect.
yeah, it was so funny.
One of my favorite scenes is another one that's probably like, just like why, but the whole rock scene was
Yeah, that was my
hilarious
favorite
to me.
scene. Yeah,
It
I
was
just
so
loved it.
great. The funniest thing is that it was just subtitles. Like, it was just, everybody had to read it, and then like the rocks would move slightly, and it was so funny to me.
That's almost an example of what I'm saying, where it's so simple,
Yeah.
but it can have such a massive effect.
Yeah,
At least for me, because like I even like reading subtitles to me, I know bothers
Some
some
people,
people,
I don't care.
but to me it's normal because I watch a lot of things that are not in English,
Right.
like anime and stuff. So I'm totally fine with like immediately
Yeah.
like reading through it and understanding what's going on and stuff. But it
That's
has
great.
just because it's literally just rocks
Yeah.
and it's just dead air. Like
It's so
like,
great.
Yeah.
It's such an incredible movie. I loved it.
Yeah.
I would watch it again, and I would.
I saw
I
this
would-
movie 4 times.
Yeah, I seen it.
Because I actually ended up buying it as soon as it came out.
Oh, really?
Then I watched it 3 times in a row.
Yeah, it's gonna be like, I have favorite movies like Star Wars and stuff like that, but if I'm talking about recently, it's probably my favorite movie of maybe the last 5 years. Maybe, because there's probably like a Marvel movie in there that was pretty great, but it was really good. Question I got for you guys about the movie: do you think that movie is going to win Best Picture? Do you
No.
think it even be nominated for Best Picture?
I feel like it will get nominated, and I feel the Academy is doing some really strange things with what they feel is inclusion, right? Like,
Yeah.
certain films have to star certain kind of ethnicity or have this kind of director or whatever, or
Themes
writer,
shown.
right, in order to be nominated. And I think this one kind of hits the nail. I mean, this one has Asian leads. I don't know if I don't know what their ethnicity is, but I feel like this one kind of nails like the diversity kind of quota for the Academy.
Yeah.
So I feel like it'll get nominated. I don't know if it'll win. The Academy usually likes to award films that kind of give filmmaking a pat on the back. I don't know if there's one like that this year, but I don't know. I usually films that I really enjoy don't usually win Best Picture.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it'll get nominated, but I don't think it'll win.
Yeah. Do you think that? No, sorry, Ted. Do you think it'll win? I heard you say no, but I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of agree in the sense that I think there's no shot this is winning Best Picture.
Yeah.
Even if I feel differently, of course. Mostly because I do think it would be a good choice for a nomination. Almost in that same stance where it's like it just kind of makes them look better for including it.
Yeah.
Which in itself I have a problem with,
Yeah.
but
That's even a
the
factor.
award, the awards themselves, I don't even take them seriously because I know, maybe not always, but the fact that occasionally something that to me feels undeserving of an award gets it, similar to like even Game Awards,
Yeah.
it kind of just becomes like a weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
So my follow up question to that,
Like
and-
social commentary
Yeah.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna award this movie Best Picture because it best fits the social climate at
right?
the time.
Exactly.
my follow up question to it, and something that we can kind of close out on is, do you think that because of that it would benefit the authenticity of the awards to include a fan vote? I don't like I'm thinking of something similar to like the NFL Pro Bowl, where the fans can vote on players that they want to send to the NFL Pro Bowl, but it's not the only thing that decides. There's also peer voting and there's So like, do you think that there's a way that the Academy could include a fan vote to help bring a little bit more authenticity to the selection of movies that best represent what the general public like? Or do you think that it would hurt the...
I think it would actually make it worse because honestly, and of course everything is like kind of subjective in certain ways, but like almost certainly a Marvel movie is getting something, which I don't feel like generally deserves anything like in like Best Picture specifically.
Sure.
But the like, because even that in itself, like the idea of having a voting system is never, even that is not a perfect representation of what the general opinion is, because that in itself is a niche audience because not everybody wants to vote.
Right.
And so even though it is maybe generally like seems more I don't know how you describe it, like
Representative.
yeah,
of
it's
the,
really just making it even more targeted. Like I said, through experience with like things like other awards for like games and stuff, it's really just, I feel like, just amplifies the fact that it's not what we expect whenever we look up, these kind of award shows and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the fact that the Academy Awards is like primetime TV, I think audiences misunderstand what the award is for, and I think the Academy Awards are for excellence in this discipline. So, excellence in filmmaking, excellence in acting, excellence in cinematography, and I don't think the public at large really has a lot of insight into what makes a film an excellent story or an excellent, excellently shot or acted. I think people know what they like, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think the only compromise I would be willing to make if I was a voting member, if I was in the Academy, which I'm not, is I would be willing for the winner of a public poll to be one of the Best Picture nominees. I think that's the only compromise I would make because, maybe you might make some people feel inclusive, but really the people that vote on these awards are are the peers and the peers that are in the industry.
Yeah.
And they know what a good performance is. They more so than
More
more
so,
so than the public at large.
Yeah,
right.
for sure.
So then what we really need is to make sure that the voting members are up to par and
Yeah,
make sure that they're
Yeah, I think I think the Academy is changing in a lot of ways. I think the idea that it's just a bunch of old white guys,
Yeah.
I think that's kind of slowly evolving, or they're kind of slowly being not pushed out the door, but
Yeah.
not the majority anymore. And I've talked to a lot of actors, filmmakers in TV and film, and I've asked them about diversity in the film industry and entertainment, and they feel like there's a change, but they feel like it's going slowly. So I feel, and from what I've seen from my end and just in general, I would probably agree with them that it's changing, but it's changing slowly, and so I do think that the people that do have the votes for these kinds of awards, I think are starting to be more diverse. The voting pool is starting to be more diverse, and I think we'll start to see the results of a more diverse voting pool.
Well, I'm excited to find out, like the nominations and how closely my top 10 movies of the year relate to the nominations for Best Picture and the performances and stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. Maybe we can do another episode when the nominations are announced and talk about who we think deserved that and maybe some dark horses that should have been nominated.
I'll be up for that.
But thanks for joining us, Dad. We really
Yep,
appreciated
you're welcome.
having
Thank you
you
for
on
having me.
this episode, and thank you to everybody watching that stuck through this longer episode of ours. Don't worry, they're not gunshots going off in the background. It's just that we live in Hawaii, and for those of you that don't know, Hawaii does fireworks very big. We don't just have a few shows here and there at big places. Everybody shoots fireworks here. So if you're ever looking for something to do on New Year's, come to Hawaii and just watch fireworks.
Until it gets banned.
Yeah. It's pretty insane. So, thank you guys for joining us. Please let us know what you guys think of the movies that we talked about. What we want to know is, what is your guys' favorite movie of the year? What do you guys think is going to maybe win Best Picture, and what do you hope to see going forward? The last question I had for you guys, real quick, is what is your most anticipated movie of next year? Like, what are you looking forward to the most watching next year?
I don't know. Maybe Ant-Man and the Wasp. Maybe.
I don't know. Ant-Man, Quantumania.
Or Quantumania. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know that I've been paying attention to what's coming out.
Oh, okay. Because next year is actually a pretty big year for movies.
What's coming out next
There's
year?
a lot. Like Creed 3 is
Yeah.
coming out next year. Super Mario Brothers. The new Indiana Jones is coming out next year. There's a lot. I just watched a video the other day about a lot of movies that are coming out, and there's way more than I thought. Like,
Okay.
there's a new Transformers coming out.
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
Well, yeah, Oppenheimer. I'm looking forward to.
So I'll answer my own question.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer for me is the thing that I'm looking forward to the most next year. But Taylor, is there something that you would say you're looking forward to more than anything else?
I feel like it's a little early for me to really give a good answer for that.
Yeah.
But of the movies that I know are coming out next year would be Oppenheimer because it's Christopher Nolan. So
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll leave you with that. Thank you guys for sticking through this episode. Please like, subscribe, comment, share with a friend. Check out our social media links down in the description below. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for being here, Dad,
Happy New Year.
and Happy New Year.